Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.
Good morning. It's Monday, June 22nd. I'm Phil Streible, Chief Market Strategist at Blue Line Futures. So Metals Minute, episode 686. So this week, we're going to have Micron earnings on Wednesday, followed by the Fed's preferred gauge on Thursday, both taking center stage. We will have a Fed speaker here today. Christopher Waller will speak at 8 a.m. Central Time. And that's really the only market-moving information coming out here later on today. We'll want to pay attention to UK politics here. The British pound slightly higher here. The dollar index essentially unchanged on the market here. And after that extended weekend of liquidation here on Thursday, futures came down on the precious metals front, tested support overnight and bouncing a bit back off their lowest levels. So you look at gold futures down about $18 at $42.28. Silver futures up 20 cents at $66.53. Remember, on the silver front, you're going to want to roll over to that September contract here later on the week. If you look at copper futures, are unchanged at $16.37, and platinum futures down about $25 at $16.83 on platinum. You'll want to go over to that October contract. So the gold-silver ratio is sitting at about 63-1. So you look at last week, the ETF flows here. Traders, they did buy gold here. They sold silver, platinum, and palladium. On the gold front, they added about 239,000 troy ounces of gold, the biggest one-day increase here since April 17th. You go to the silver front, they cut 205,000 troy ounces of silver on Thursday, and you go into last week here, they increased gold holdings by about 26,000 troy ounces. Silver, they reduced 2.95 million ounces. And then you look at platinum, they reduced those holdings by about 15,000 ounces here. And palladium, they increased it by 4,000. So since the start of the year, one of the things I pay attention to is the gold ETF flows were down 1.6%. Silver ETF flows down 9.2%. You look at the cross-asset picture here, you got crude oil futures down 66 cents here. The high of the overnight session, 78.14. The low, 74.40. You look at Bitcoin futures up about $1,100 here at 64,000, and the dollar index up 7 here at 100.69. Now, we do have some UK political news coming out here with some bit of a regime change here with Keir Starmer potentially stepping down. You look at the British pound up 29 at 132.32. You look at the S&P 500, essentially unchanged here, as you do have the NASDAQ, the Dow, and the Russell, all turning green on the screen with the S&P at 75.62. Now, the S&P 500 has really been driven by those rising earnings growth, the revenues, the corporate profits, up about 28% in the first quarter, expected up 26% in Q2. The last time we saw that type of movement upwards in corporate profit was just post of the COVID surge. The volatility index here remains on the futures contract at 1845 here. And you look at S&P 500 Gamma futures, they're neutral with the Russell 2000 sitting at 3,000 and just near those all-time highs. Now, the dollar index was up 1.3% week over week here, sitting at one-year highs here. Really very bullish as far as the breakout technically on the dollar index. And what's that doing? That's putting pressure on the gold market, on Bitcoin, on a lot of those other asset classes out there. You do have 10-year treasury yields sitting just below that 4.5% at 4.48. And you look at the overseas markets here, you have European stocks. They were subdued, while Asian stocks, they did surge to a record high with the MSCI Asia Pacific Index rising 1.1%. So it's going to be a busy week, but more towards the tail end of the week where we get that final quarter GDP data coming out, that core PCE data, and we'll really want to pay attention to any of the Fed speakers coming out because we will have several of them this week here as far as any kind of guidance, or is that forward guidance completely dropped? Now, if you guys have any questions on futures option trading, shoot an email to info@bluelinefutures.com. And remember that futures and option trading does involve risk of loss, may not be suitable to all investors. Good luck and good trading.
Futures trading involves a substantial risk of loss and may not be suitable for all investors. Therefore, carefully consider whether such trading is suitable for you in light of your financial condition.